Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jack Zemlicka, Program Director for the National Strip-Tillage Conference and publisher of Strip-Till Farmer Magazine. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Just wanted to take a few minutes here today as we are ramping up for our 6th annual National Strip-Tillage Conference next week, August 1st and 2nd in Peoria, Illinois, to answer any of those burning questions you have to help you better prepare for your attendance at the event. Or if you're still deciding whether or not to join us, would like to answer any questions you may have about the event itself, some of the sessions, some of the topics, and anything else related to the conference. So before we dig into the questions here, I just wanted to provide a little bit of an overview for folks who are planning to come out to Peoria next week to help you prepare for the event. So this being our 6th annual event, what we found is a pretty unique and very learning intensive formula here for our farmer events. And again, we've had the benefit of 27 years of success of our National No-Tillage Conference to draw on that have really helped us refine and really prepare a solid agenda of speakers and topics for you, particularly for this year's program. So one of the things that we really look to have is a diversity of topics and provide a lot of different options for attendees, both in terms of the structure and the content that we're going to provide folks who are coming out. So we have a good mix of general session speakers, which are going to touch on some very high-level topics, including looking at kind of some of the reasons and the motives for getting into a strip-till system, along with looking at more of the precision ag aspects of strip-till, which very much go hand in hand, particularly with remote sensing tools and how data is driving strip-till systems. But also soil health and cover cropping are two areas which have seen a lot of momentum, a lot of interest that we see both from a readership standpoint, but also I think from bigger farm topics, as there's certainly been a lot of momentum for conservation tillage and soil health practices, particularly in the public eye. So again, kind of taking a look at how things are going to play out next week at the event. We do have several general sessions, which again are going to be held in our main ballroom for our entire audience. And then we also provide 12 different classroom sessions where we will have speakers discussing a range of topics, and we have 4 of those going concurrently in 3 sections of strip-till classrooms throughout the 2-day event. And I think what's really great is that we are going to have a real diversity of, again, of topics and speakers, ranging from farmers that are going to talk about kind of their on-farm experiences and experiments that they're doing, everything from nutrient management to cover cropping. And one of the most highly attended sessions that we've seen year in and year out is we tend to have a session for first-year strip-tillers or folks that are just looking to get into the practice. And we found that that tends to be a very popular session just because we do see a lot of first-year strip-tillers and people that are new to the practice that attend the event. And I think that's great because we tend to see them year after year. So they're seeing enough success and reward that first year that they're coming back and obviously being able to get some of those questions answered. So a big component of getting those questions answered is our roundtables. And certainly with the feedback we get from every conference, and that's a critical part of helping us kind of refine and update and improve on the events that we put on, is that we find our roundtable sessions tend to be one of the most popular aspects of the conference. It really provides an intimate setting for attendees to ask and answer questions that their colleagues have. And by design, there's a wide range of topics that we cover in those, everything from residue management to sidewall compaction to strip refreshing. A new one that we've added this year is looking at planting green and what are some of the ways to do that effectively, some of the considerations to look at when wanting to get into that system. But I think most importantly is taking advantage of that time so that attendees can really have the opportunity to converse and listen to their fellow attendees. It's a great mix of both experienced strip tillers and folks that, again, might be there for their first time. So we did have a question come in here from an attendee who went last year asking whether or not they feel it's worth coming again this year. So I would say absolutely, because year after year, we look to have different speakers, different topics. So what you may have heard at last year's event, you probably won't hear at this year's event, or you might get an entirely different take on it. So I think the opportunity to get different perspectives each year is an opportunity that allows attendees to, again, maybe network with somebody new that you hadn't met that first year. That is a big component of this event as well, is having the opportunity to talk with farmers from all different parts of the country and internationally. We've got groups that are going to be representing Australia there this year. We generally have a fair number of attendees that come from Canada, certainly all parts of the U.S. So it's really neat to see that dynamic play out in the hallways and kind of some of the after session conversations, whether it's talking with one of the presenters or, again, sitting at the table or talking outside near one of the sponsors about something they heard or saw or heard somebody try on their farm that they want to get a little bit more information on. So I think, based on my experience now, having been involved in the conference since the start, one of the great things to see is the return attendees who have kind of, I guess, graduated from, maybe a first or second year strip tiller to now somebody who's been in the practice for, 5, 6, 7 years. They almost feel kind of like elder statesmen coming and talking with new strip tillers at the conference now, where they can kind of share some of the knowledge that they've picked up over the years with new attendees and really give them kind of the full experience, and obviously make it worth their time and investment to be there. So another question that we had was just looking at, what are typically some of the key takeaways to expect from attending. And I think, certainly it depends on the scope of your operation, but again, going back to the diversity of topics that we have, where obviously if cover cropping is something that is becoming a big part of your strip till system or has been for years, making sure that we cater sessions to both someone that is just starting out with cover cropping, but also somebody that, might be 10, 12, 15 years in, and also providing them some value. And we've got a really experienced speaker in Tom Cotter from Minnesota, who's been at a number of our shows and is really recognized as an authority in terms of doing some of the cover cropping experimentation he's done on his farm. And I think can speak to certainly both the experienced cover cropper, but also, somebody that's just starting out, and how do you integrate cover crops into your strip till system to get the most return on investment, bang for your buck. So another question we had presented here was kind of along those lines, and it involved strip tilling with cereal rye and other cover crops, and looking for recommendations on how to best fit that into your system. So I think questions like that are a really good example of things that you can get answered at this event. And I think, looking back at years past, a lot of the feedback we'll get is people coming in with just a laundry list of questions. Some people I know have even brought checklists of questions that they'd like to have asked. And it's interesting to see somebody on the first day or the first night and, how many they've been able to check off their list just with the conversations or the sessions that they've sat in, and being able to really maximize their time being there. And again, that's the whole idea with the event, is we want to make it a very learning intensive environment, kind of overload everybody who attends with more information than they can really handle. So on the car ride home or the plane ride home, you have a chance to start to digest some of that. So when you get back to your farm operation, you can kind of decide what you think those best takeaways were. And again, even bringing home just one takeaway, I think, makes it well worth the trip. So obviously, part of being there, there's some social activities that we always like to make sure we include for attendees. Again, once the learning's over, which I guess it never really is, it's just a different environment to learn. But we do have a lunch and then a dinner banquet on the first evening. And then we also have breakfast on the second day, on Friday, August 2nd, which are all included with conference registration. And then we also have the first night, which is always a very well-attended event, is the hospitality event, which follows up our dessert and networking hour at the end of the night. And that's always a really good opportunity to kind of unwind, relax, kind of just in much more of a casual environment, talk with maybe some old friends, some new friends that you met during the day, and kind of relax and get ready for the second day of learning. But that's always an environment, I think, that's really conducive to having some of those after hours conversations about, what's going on the farm and how to, maximize some of those tips that you picked up throughout the day. And again, even get those additional questions answered that you have. So we've had a lot of questions or a few inquiries about the workshop that we have that is going to be following the end of the conference this year. So in past years, we've been fortunate to have some really excellent soil scientists and researchers that have taken a select group of attendees out into the field and done some really interesting experiments, demonstrations, and very much a hands-on learning experience for folks that participate. So really excited this year that we have Frank Gibbs joining us from Indiana, from Ohio rather, and then he's going to be coming out to not only speak at the event, he'll be doing our premier lecture series general session and also a classroom focusing on earthworms, but he's going to take a group of strip tillers out to a local farm. And I'm sure if anybody, wants to go on YouTube or check it out, he's pretty well known for doing his smoking tile test. And if you've not had the chance to see that in person, I think it's something definitely worth considering coming out to see. It's pretty fascinating, and he does a really nice job of connecting all the dots between soil health, earthworm activity, and putting out a pretty good spectacle as well. So very excited to have Frank dedicate his time after the event especially, and again, take some folks out. So if that is something, again, beyond the event that you're interested in taking part in, that is an opportunity we would have available. It's a limited attendance, but I know we do still have a few seats available. And again, it's another opportunity to get some hands-on experience in the field from one of the foremost authorities, certainly in soil health and earthworm biology. So again, that's something that I think would be highly recommended. I'm personally very excited to go out and see the demonstration. So I think it's going to be well worth attending. So again, just kind of summarizing some of the high points in terms of the event. I think beyond just being able to take advantage of the on-site, learning and networking, we always like to send attendees home with certainly a wealth of information that we've collected and compiled for farmers, both on the strip-till and no-till side. So we've got a number of materials that will come with registration, both focusing heavily on soil health, cover cropping. We have hot off the presses new special report looking at organic no-till and strip-till, which I know are gaining a lot of momentum and interest. That's something that is going to be covered on the program as well. But beyond that, you also get an opportunity to take advantage of video replays of the general sessions. And by being attendee at this event, you can kind of continue that learning experience, have an opportunity to go back, revisit some of the best from the event, and again, extend that learning experience throughout the course of the year leading up to the 2020 event. So, well, I appreciate it. Hopefully I got everybody's questions answered, and appreciate you guys taking a few minutes to tune in here. Looking forward to hopefully seeing many of you out in Peoria next week. But in the meantime, I hope everyone has a great rest of the week, and safe travels down to the 6th Annual National Strip-Tillage Conference next week. Thanks again.